Today we're going to be looking at the Bally Professional Arcade expandable computer system. On the box, the front of it, its box isn't in bad shape. It's pretty straightforward. It says that there's 3 exciting action games and a color calculator are built in, and that's the keypad that's here. There were 2 handheld controllers, and shortly I'll show you. They were kind of unique and are very similar to what the Fairchild Channel F game system used. It came with an AC power adapter and a TV antenna switch box. It worked on both black and white and color TVs. And this was one of the early game systems to have cartridges that utilize ROM. So with each cartridge, you had a new game. On the side, you can see that there were actually some white versions that were released through some department stores. Those systems are more rare, but were released by the same company. And then as I turn the box, you can see on the side that it has gunfight, checkmate, scribbling, and the calculator built in. And it was available, they called it walnut, wood grain, or computer tan. While it included 2 controllers, you could utilize up to 4 controllers. And there were some games that were developed. I believe there were approximately 35 games released by the corporation. That's not including all the homebrew games. And there's actually a very strong homebrew presence online. There are some groups that are actually on Facebook, and you can do a search for them and join, and they have really good updates, so I would highly recommend it if you're getting into retro gaming. When you get a system, I would recommend going on Facebook and looking. They describe it as a home TV entertainment center, and they stated that it expands into a powerful personal computer system as your needs grow. They did have a plan to develop an external box with a keyboard and additional memory. This came with 4K, but the maximum amount is 64K, and they had plans on releasing a memory expansion. And I'll show you on the game system, there's a port in the back that is not cut out of the system, but if you actually look at the board, there is a connector built in as well as a power source that you can tap into next to it. And you can see as I turn the box, there's a little bit bigger showing of the calculator. And you have to remember, this was at a time where pocket calculators were new. It was not unheard of for a pocket calculator in the early 70s to be going for several $100s, especially any type of scientific or one that was used like in architecture or physics or math. So having a calculator was actually a much more of a bigger deal in the 70s and 80s. And they describe it, it says the home entertainment center, the exclusive Bally color calculator includes a 5-function 10 memory capability with scrolling action and a correcting feature. This built-in extra makes the Bally Arcade the most powerful video console you can buy, and it can even expand into a complete personal computer system as your needs grow. From Astrovision Incorporated. Now you can see what some of the game boxes looked like. I have a multitude of games, as well as I'll show you shortly a multi-cart. This is what some of the Bally Videocade instruction booklets looked like. They looked just like the outside of the video cartridge box, and they were pretty plain, just straightforward white paper with typing on them. On the side here, it describes that there are built-in programs for hours of fun. And then on the other side, they show that it's an expandable computer system that gives you more games and longer lasting fun. And it actually was known for its graphics capability. However, it was found that this was a system that was very difficult to program. Um, so accessing the memory when you come to write basic programs was difficult, especially when you have to think, when you write in BASIC, there was a cartridge in BASIC, and this is what it actually looks like, and you can see there's an adapter on it. That was where the an adapter plugged into a cassette player, and you could store or load your basic programs utilizing that cartridge with the adapter. I'm going to turn on the TV, and actually in a minute I'm going to show you what the game system itself looks like. This is what one of the joysticks look like, and as you can see, here's your fire button, and you could go left, right like this in multiple directions, but the top also turns like one of the paddle controllers for an Atari 2600, and this was in direct competition of the Atari 2600. Initially it was only available from mail order, but then it was released in some retail outlets. This is shown that this was one of the reasons why the system did not sell very well and was ultimately dropped by Bally midway. They did not have a good marketing department like the Atari 2600 did, so there was less most people didn't actually know that the system even existed unless you read a computer trade magazine and could see that it was available by mail order. This is the Bally system itself, and you can see the keypad, and the keypad had overlays, which I put an overlay in there, and that's what would come with one of the video games, would be an overlay. This is the overlay for Bally Basic, and you can only imagine having to use one of the keys at the bottom as a function key and then using the keypad to program a basic program. It took a lot of time and dedication to do that. The system comes with an eject button on the front, and then cartridges were loaded from the front. This is a multi-cart from Gambit Creations in 2021. This is available on eBay, and it's actually an amazing cartridge. It comes, you set the different ones and zeros on the front of the cartridge, and that lets you access different games, and it actually comes with a very nice gaming chart. It has a lot of homebrew games on there, as well as Bally Basic, Bally Basic demos, and some games that were actually written by Midway but weren't released, and the ROMs were found. You can also see that there is this plastic overlay, and this has the cartridge storage for it. And then I'm going to show you the back of the system. Whoop, there went a cartridge. That's alright. They're tough. On the back, if you can see, there is the expansion port, and then what I've done is I've cut out where that was at. There was actually plastic there in the case, and if you cut out through there, you can also see this is the power cord, and there is a place to actually plug this in to the board for the game system. And this is actually from Gambit as well, and this was made in 2020, and this gives you a full 32K of RAM, and so it makes it actually into a much more powerful machine. And there's some homebrew games that have been written that utilize all of that memory. The Bally Astrocade had several different names. It was also known as the Bally Arcade, as well as the Bally ABA 1000. This was considered a second generation home video game console and simple computer system. It was originally announced that they would release it in October of 1977, but like I mentioned previously about mail order, it was not available by mail order until December of 77. The name branding when it was released was changed to the Bally Professional Arcade, as you saw on the box. It was marketed for a very limited time, and then it exited the market. The rights were later picked up by a third-party company who re-released it, and they sold it until around 1984. It had a Zilog Z80 processor that was clocked at 1.78 megahertz. It utilized ROM cartridges, and as I said previously, there was 4K of memory that could be expanded to 64K. And the product I showed you, it's nicknamed as the Little White RAM. So that's another way to search it on eBay, and that gives you a full 32K. Games Magazine included the Bally Professional Arcade in their top 100 games of 1981, and they stated that, quote, "Our favorite cartridge are the classic Gunfight, Red Baron, Air War, and Demolition Derby." And Danny Goodman of Creative Computing Video and Arcade Games stated in '83 that Astrocade has one of the best graphics and sound packages of any home video game system. It's unfortunate that accessing those graphics proved to be very difficult for making the games themselves. This is a copy of Space Invaders, and it's one of the games that's included on the Little White RAM. There were initially, and I stand corrected, I think early in the video I said there were 35 games. There's 28 officially released video games for the system, but I believe currently there are 35 games if you include the homebrew. I think as far as game collecting, if you are serious about game collecting, then this would be something I would highly recommend to add to your system. I would also get the Little White RAM and the multi-cart, because that allows you to utilize the system to its intended full specs. I think if you're just doing this as mild interest, then I wouldn't recommend getting the system, and would recommend getting something like the Atari 2600. Each week we're going to profile different computer systems, such as the Acadia 2001 released by Emerson, the Fairchild Channel F that was released by the Fairchild Corporation around 77 and 78. All of these systems that we're going to be talking about were in direct competition with the Atari 2600, and they lasted through the Intellivision and ColecoVision. So unfortunately, when systems like Intellivision and ColecoVision came out, sales plummeted for most of these early second generation systems. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I apologize about the sound and video. I just started the channel, and so this is going to be a learning process for all of us. But I would appreciate if you give me a like, and if you subscribe to the channel. And there should be roughly once a week to week and a half a new episode released. And I do have some interesting items in the collection, such as a game board that plugs into the Atari 2600 that you stand on, lean forward, back, left, right to do skiing, and other items from around the world that are considered quite rare. So please join me for the next episode. Thanks again, and have a great week. Take care. Bye.